Thank you so much for the introduction, Ash. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
All right,
It's all
guys.
yours, my friend.
Perfect. All right, well then let me go ahead and share my screen super quickly. All right, can we see it all right? Create an office that supports your people in their work.
Yep, loud and clear. Yep.
Awesome, it's perfect. All right, so thanks for tuning in, everybody, for the Robin demo. So like Ash mentioned, we're a workplace experience solution that helps manage things like your meeting rooms, seat assignments, and desk booking, while providing insight into how we optimize your space. So just so you guys know how you would use this. So Robin's a tool that independent companies buy to help run their workplaces. So where you might be purchasing it for your tenants to use. So before we walk through the product, I want to give a high-level overview of how we look at the workplace and the types of problems that we solve. Don't worry, we won't be looking at the slide deck the whole time. I'm not a monster. I'm happy to run through some live workflows as well. I've been here on the sales team at Robin for coming up on 2 years now. So I'm happy to answer any questions after, or feel free to write into the website, and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. I have, at this point, I think I've had about thousands of conversations around the workplace, so I should be able to answer most things. All right, so jumping through here, you start to look at the evolution of the office and how folks aren't really as tied down to their desk as they used to be. Now we're encouraging folks to be able to move around a lot more. And what that's done is it's created a lot more modern working styles. So if you look at the way folks are working, you have companies using us today like SoulCycle. So SoulCycle uses Robin to take some of their burden off of their people ops team. They want to be encouraging their employees to be able to not only schedule for themselves, but be able to find the right rooms or spaces for the activities that they're looking to get done. So if you look at likely your two most costly expenses come down to real estate and people. And so I'll cover real estate here in a second, but on the people side, on average, folks are spending about 30 minutes a day looking to find a space. And that can add up when it goes across an entire employee base. If you look at DraftKings here in Boston, they just redid their HQ and it's pretty sweet, but they wanted to deploy flexible seating. They want folks to be able to move around a lot more, interact with different departments so everybody knows what each other's doing and they can collaborate. And they need a tool to be able to help them be a little bit more transparent into what seats are open, which desks offer which tools to make sure it's right for what I'm trying to get done that day. And of course, find where other folks are sitting in the office so that I can collaborate with them. Then you have a company like Lola here in Boston, started by the folks that started Kayak. And so when they were taking on additional space, they realized they were making a lot of office design decisions based off of guesses. And if you know anything about Boston real estate, those are pretty expensive guesses to be making. So they wanted to look into more of the utilization data to understand how they should build their space. So actually, if you take Robin, for example, so we're growing a ton, and when we looked to move down to the first floor and take over it as well, our CEO obsessed over our utilization data. So we downloaded all of our reports. He wanted to make sure that when he's building the space, that it's going to be conducive to the types of work that's going on, which is why we now have things like breakout spaces. We have some smaller rooms as well as some larger rooms that are better for team stand-ups or maybe a board meeting, something like that. So what we've done is we've combined what was traditionally a pretty sleepy category in workplace management and combined it with employee experience. So down below, you have the ingredients of the office. You have what makes it up, your spaces, your seats, and your floor plans. And then you have on the outside here, how folks are interacting with it between their schedules, along with the services and integrations that you guys roll out. So in order to improve that experience, we made tools for everybody. You can see here we have live availability and seating charts, as well as signage throughout the office. We made tools for your admins as well, so that they can start to see a bird's eye view of the office to better management. Most importantly, let's find out what's under-supported, what types of work or what types of work are being over-supported, but Let's find out what's hardest to do in the office, and let's remove those bottlenecks so that people can do their best work. Then we made tools for the folks that use the office the most, your employees. So we created an extension that lives within Google and Outlook. We created a mobile app for iOS and Android so that folks can do things like book a desk for the day or book a room or maybe find where another coworker's sitting. And we built integrations with all of these companies that you see here. So I'm going to jump out of the slides here for a second to show you the extension, because the extension does a great job of showing how we think about scheduling. So starting at the activity, rather than just the traditional finding your favorite conference room or the one that's closest to your desk, let's find the one that's best for the type of activity that you're looking to get done. So in this case, I'm setting a call with myself and my sales engineer, Noah, who I bring on far too many calls. So I can see what spaces are available for the two of us that can support this activity, what times work for both of our schedules, as well as, okay, if I want to book Kyla Wren, I can make sure it has the technology and that it can fit the two of us, and then it's available at my time. And then I can book it straight here from the extension. Jumping back here to the slides. So this connects with what we talk about a lot here at Robin, and that's activity-based work. The idea that if I need to get a brainstorm done today for the four of us, and say one of our employees is remote, I can go ahead and make sure that I find a room that has a whiteboard for the brainstorm and a video conferencing technology for the remote employee that's calling in. But sometimes the best meeting space is not a conference room at all. Sometimes that should be done at the desk. Sometimes that one-on-one meeting can happen at desks next to each other throughout the day and free up space for someone else to be able to use that conference room. Take, for example, our design team here in Boston. They actually orient themselves on their pod based off of the project they're working on in the day and who they need to collaborate with on that project. Then, of course, signage is a huge piece of what we do. So you have our status boards here. You have a list view. It looks a lot like an arrival and departure board at the airport, showing which conference rooms are available for how long and what's within them. Then you can also see an interactive floor plan as well. So this can either be seen as a static version, you can use it as a wayfinding tool and just show general availability, or I suggest you can see this as a touchscreen as well. So that folks can click into spaces, they can click into desks, find where other folks are sitting. I personally book my desk every morning via the kiosk. So the most popular way is pulling out the mobile app, but sometimes I don't want to take it out of my pocket. I can just walk up to the kiosk here and book it straight from the screen. And just to let you know, these are just unique URLs that we're generating for you. So any office signage that you guys have that can run a browser will do just fine. All right, now to the room display. Likely what you guys are familiar with, and there's a reasonable chance you're familiar with it because you saw Robin. And these room displays have three main jobs. Number one is visibility. So let's make sure that folks can't act like they didn't know any better and jump in on someone else's meeting, or spend too long in a meeting and squat through someone else's scheduled meeting that's coming up. Number two is being able to start and end meetings straight from the display itself. But then number three, and most importantly, is calendar cleanup. So if these meetings are not going to happen, then let's free up that space for somebody else to be able to use it by automating check-ins at the door. So it's just one tap to check in. We just want to know, is this meeting happening or not? Because we see on average about 1 in 4 meetings are actually abandoned. So it's pretty tough to see the schedule completely full and walk by the rooms and those meetings aren't happening. And it's hard to tell, how should I design the future space or optimize my space today? Because it appears like all these rooms are busy. You're also able to get rid of things like pesky recurring meetings. So I'm sure you have it either at the company you're working at today or your last one. I know I did, but the recurring meetings that stay on the calendar for far too long. you can essentially create a strike system saying that if nobody shows up to this meeting 2, 3, 4 times in a row, we're going to go ahead and wipe that resource calendar off of the event, and we'll send you a notification saying that we did so. So we're not going to delete the event or edit it any other way. We're going to just remove that resource calendar for someone else, and we'll send you a notification saying, hey, I don't think this meeting is happening anymore. Let's free it up for somebody else to use. That's how we start to optimize that other expense that I mentioned, the real estate side of things. And then, of course, we're reporting on everything in the back end so that you guys can start to see how you guys are using the space the most. So, of course, we manage spaces and desks for thousands of companies across different verticals, either handfuls of rooms or it might be hundreds deployed at a time. We have plenty of workplace nerds, experts here at Robin that are more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. And I myself am happy to run through anything as it comes up. So let me jump into the room display here. So we run on iOS and Android. We run on Amazon Kindle Fires as well as Crestron TSS devices. These are pretty self-explanatory. They're easy to use. So you guys can go ahead and if you'd like to add your own branding on here, you're more than welcome to. You don't need to look at the Boston waterfront here in the background. The theme is completely up to you guys. Each of these room displays is connected to a resource calendar that lives within Google or Outlook. So that if I'm walking up and I'm booking 15 minutes here, it's going to go ahead and show that this meeting room is in use. And then on the back end, someone that's sitting at their desk that's looking to schedule a meeting, they know that this room is unavailable. You can also do things like see the schedule for the day, so I know when it might free up again. You can add color overlays. So these colors are custom. Of course, I highly suggest these because it makes it really easy to understand what's free and what might not be at a glance. So the colors are custom, but here at Robin, we use the stoplight system and most folks are using it. It's a pretty easy system there. Green showing that the room is available, red showing that a meeting is taking place, and yellow showing that a meeting is about to take place and that it's ready to be checked into. So when I mentioned check-ins before, this is what I meant. One tap to check in, and we know that this meeting is taking place. This is how we get a lot of our analytics, as this is a huge piece for us this year to make sure that everybody knows how they're using their space, and then we can help consult on the best ways to use it. You can also see things like different available spaces and then book them from the mobile app, as well as if you want to report issues from the displays, I can know, all right, the phone is broken in conference room B, and it'll go ahead and it'll send a service ticket to a support address of your choice so that these problems don't go unattended to. All right, I'm done with the slides. I'm going to jump into the dashboard here. So jumping into the web dashboard, everybody has access to these tools, but most commonly your office admins, facilities folks, those are the folks that find this the most useful, the ones that are managing the workspace. The Office tab here is showing off more of our search functionality. So if I need a room today for the 4 of us, and I need a Chromecast because I'm presenting today at 2, much like a search engine, Robin is going to go ahead and push up the best fits for that meeting that you're trying to get done to the top. And how we do that is by creating space profiles for each one of your conference rooms or breakout spaces, whatever it might be. What we do is we add a space profile picture so you know what you're booking. You can go ahead and set a capacity so that you know how many folks can fit in it, as well as you can tag different amenities so I can understand which rooms are going to be conducive to the type of work. You can also add a name as well. It does not have to be Star Wars themed, but we got quite a few fans over here at Robin, including myself. When you move forward with Robin, you would likely have a conversation with your customer success manager around how you want these spaces being used. So you can tell me things like, Chris, I want this to be a quick hitter meeting room. I want 30-minute meetings going on, and we're going to go ahead and help you build out a custom set of policies so that we're making sure that you guys are using these spaces the way that you intended and taking advantage then of every square foot. Jumping to the schedule tab. So this is a grid view of your conference rooms showing what's available and when. I can do things like book a meeting here from the schedule tab. I can get ahead of different meetings or events. I can say, all right, this one might not happen, or I need to make sure I know which meetings need things like coffee or a specific setup and different workplace services. An executive assistant's best friend or an office manager that someone needs to play an air traffic controller, they can jump here into one of the events and they can go ahead and do things like email the organizer and say, look, I need to free up this room for a C-level, or email the invitees and let them know, and they can remove the room resource and move around to another room. All right, next up, I want to show off some people finding. So I'm going to take you into our corporate account here so you guys can see what this looks like live. Let me jump over here. So if I want to continue to be the great coworker that I am, I can go ahead and actually a great example is Maggie. So Maggie just joined our sales team about a week or two ago. And if I want to go grab her for coffee, tell her what it's like around here, I can go ahead and type her in and click on the desk that she's sitting in today. So this is going to take me to the map. The map's an easy way to understand where she is relative to other points of interest in the office. I can start to understand, okay, who's sitting around her today and what her reservation is today. So I can go ahead and grab her. So I can see what other folks are sitting. And the map here is where you'll be able to book desks for the day. This is where you can go ahead and manage your seating chart. And this same map is what you're seeing on that kiosk. It's what you'd be seeing on the mobile app that you can pinch and zoom to be able to book a desk to make sure that you have one for the day. And then it has the right amenities for what you're doing. Because as a salesman, I have a different set of tools that I need to do my best work than one of our engineers might. Okay, jumping into the analytics side here. So these are conversations that you can, of course, always have with your customer success manager or myself if you'd like to work through them together, because we have these conversations a lot. You can start to see things like, what's a healthy utilization rate? So we've measured that a good benchmark is around 40 to 60% of the time your conference rooms are being used. And so if it's starting to feel a bit crowded in there, or you're trying to understand why are some of these spaces being used more than the others, you can start to find out, okay, well, this room has a certain set of amenities. Let's go ahead and match that with one of the lower utilized conference rooms, and let's even out some of that traffic. This is where, when I mentioned my CEO obsessing over our analytics, this is where he went to download those reports. And he actually found out that our most common meeting types are meetings with 3 people or less for about a half hour at a time. So he built out our space to be conducive to that. So we have a lot of quick hitter meeting rooms, as well as one that doesn't have a calendar attached at all. So if folks feel comfortable just jumping in to have a quick conversation, this is where you can see how those different meeting spaces are being used. And then when it comes to companies like Datto that are looking to take these analytics and start to understand how they're using, or how they can design their future space, this is where you'd be able to see that breakdown. Speaking of Datto actually, and we have a case study on this from our great marketing team, they discovered that they were getting back about 500 hours, I believe, a month, just off of the recaptured time. So the recaptured time, what it's telling you, and for example, if I had a meeting today at 1:30, and of course I'd never do this, but if I skipped it to come talk to you guys, it would, and I didn't check into the meeting, it would go ahead and release that time. And if someone booked over that time that they wouldn't have been able to before, that would be known as recaptured time. Time that they're directly getting back because Robin's able to tell you which meetings are happening and which ones might not be. So we can go beyond this as well. You guys are able to create custom reports, and of course, export them into a CSV so that you guys can best understand how you're using your space today and plan ones in the future. All conducive to more modern working styles, of course. Then here in the Manage tab, this is where your office admins are going to be living. This is where we go ahead and build out your spaces and desks, as well as add your coworkers. We can give them different roles, as well as customize things like groups and permissions so that I can say, all right, I want to give this sales team a specific set of rooms that they get to book because they have clients coming in, something like that, where you guys can get granular with those permissions. And then, of course, the integrations tab, where we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of the tools that you guys already use. So this will be connecting calendars. It might be integrating with Slack or Zoom or a SAML 2.0 provider. That'd be up to you. And then before I open it up to questions here, I want to make sure I show you guys what these kiosks look like live. So here's our live kiosk here in Boston. Again, just a unique URL. If I click around, I can see this is where I booked my desk for the day. This is where my coworker, Evan, decided to sit next to me here. So this is where I could go ahead and reserve different desks. I can reserve rooms here that are connected to a calendar. And this can all be seen on an interactive kiosk. And of course, if anybody wants to write into the comments after, if you want, I'm happy to share what we use for hardware internally here at Robin, things like price points as well. But happy to open it up to questions here, as it looks like I just have a few minutes left, but just want to make sure if you guys have any other questions or if you'd like to see another demo or want to ask some questions around your use case, feel free to reach out.